Hi everyone, my name is Kayla Schaefer, and I will be going over hearing and the structures of the ear with you today. As I move through this presentation, there will be a few quiz questions after we discuss each section of the ear, so feel free to pause and move through this at your own pace. The ear can be divided into three different sections, which are the external ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The external ear is separated from the middle ear by the tympanic membrane, which is also called the eardrum. The middle ear is separated from the inner ear by the oval window and the round window. All three of these sections work together as a cohesive unit in order to operate and to allow us to hear. We will begin first by looking at the external ear, then the middle ear, then the inner ear, and how hearing works and functions. So with that, let's begin. The outer ear contains two main structures, the auricle and the auditory canal. The auricle is a C-shaped curve of our outer ear. It is this C shape of the auricle that helps to push sound waves towards the auditory canal. The auricle is made up of three sections called the helix, the lobule, and the trachea. Some of these names may sound familiar to you, but it is important to remember that they all make up the auricle. The auditory canal helps sound waves enter through the middle and inner ear. The canal goes through the external auditory meatus of our temporal bone. It is lined with stratified epithelium, which contains sebaceous glands. These sebaceous glands produce earwax, which functions similarly to mucus. It prevents debris from entering into the ear and helps to lubricate the auditory canal. It is these two structures, the auricle and the auditory canal, are what is referred to as the external ear. At the end of the auditory canal is the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum. This is part of the middle ear. However, this structure separates the external ear from the middle ear. For the first quiz question, there are two highlighted sections on the image that are blue and red. These sections make up the outer ear. What are the names of these sections? The blue section is the auricle, and the red section is the auditory canal. Here is a surprise question. What is the auricle made up of? It is made up of three features, and they are the helix, the lobule, and the trachea. You do not have to memorize this for class, but it is important to know what the auricle is made up of. Now moving on to the middle ear. The middle ear has two important structures, the ossicles and the eustachian tube. The ossicles are the general name for the three tiniest bones in our body. They are called the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, and they help transmit sound to the inner ear. The malleus is attached to the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum, and it forms a joint with the incus. The incus forms a joint with the stapes, which is connected to the inner ear. The eustachian tube helps to equalize air pressure within the tympanic membrane and is connected to our pharynx through the middle ear. For the second quiz question, there are two highlighted sections of the middle ear. They are the green section and the blue section. What are the names of them? The green is the ossicles, and the blue is the eustachian tube. For the third quiz question, what are the three tiny bones that make up the ossicles? Number 1 is the malleus, number 2 is the incus, and number 3 is the stapes. Now moving on to the inner ear. The inner ear has several structures, but it can be divided into two main sections, which are the cochlea and the vestibule. Both of these structures are important for hearing and maintaining balance, as they send neural signals to the brainstem through the vestibulocochlear nerve, or the cranial nerve 8. The cochlea looks like a spiral shell, and it contains the cochlear canal. The canal can then be divided into three parts. The top part is called the scala vestibuli, and it contains the tectorial membrane. The middle section forms the cochlear duct, and the bottom section is the scala tympani, and it contains the basilar membrane. The oval window is the first opening in the cochlea, and it is connected to the scala vestibuli. The second opening of the cochlea is the round window, and it is connected to the scala tympani. Both the oval and round window function in hearing, in which we will discuss later. Within the cochlear duct is the organ of Corti. This functions as a sensory receptor for hearing. Inside of the organ of Corti are hair cells located on the basilar membrane. These hair cells contain hair-like structures called stereocilia. They are underneath the tectorial membrane. We will also discuss this later, however, note that the stereocilia are critical for hearing. The vestibule is a central cavity and connects to the cochlea. It contains two structures called the eudicule and the saccule. There are sensory receptors and balance receptors located within the vestibule as it works to maintain equilibrium and balance of the body. For the fourth quiz question, there are two sections highlighted in this image. They are red and blue. These sections make up the inner ear. What are the names of these sections? The blue is the cochlea, and the red highlighted section is the vestibule. For the fifth quiz question, there are three sections of the cochlear duct. What are they? The first section is the scala tympani. The second section is the cochlear duct. And the third section is the scala vestibuli. Here is another surprise question. What membrane does the scala tympani contain? It contains the basilar membrane. What membrane does the scala vestibuli contain? It contains the tectorial membrane. Now moving on to hearing. Hearing in the ear is due to the function of many working parts. Sounds that we hear create vibrations that move through the auditory canal as waves of pressure. This is due to the function of the eardrum and the ossicles that transform these vibrations into waves of pressure. When a noise hits the eardrum, it vibrates. This vibration of the eardrum causes the ossicles to vibrate in order, from the malleus to the incus to the stapes. As the stapes moves, the vibrations move through the oval window, which in turn moves the round window. The movement of the round window pushes the fluid that is in the cochlea. The fluid inside the cochlea moves from one end of the cochlea to the other. The stereocilia of the hair cells located in the organ of Corti move in response to the basilar membrane moving within the cochlea. The moving of the stereocilia causes them to become excited, and it creates neural signals as sensory nerves. These move through the cranial 8 nerve to the brain. Therefore, in short, this is how we hear and translate a vibration into a neural signal. For quiz question number 6, what section of the external ear are important for hearing? Number 1 is the auricle. Number 2 is the auditory canal. For quiz question number 7, what sections of the middle ear are responsible for hearing? Number 1 is the tympanic membrane, and number 2 is the ossicles. For quiz question number 8, what sections of the inner ear are important for hearing? Number 1 is the cochlea. Number 2 is the round window. Number 3 is the oval window. Number 4 is the basilar membrane. Number 5, the stereocilia. And number 6 is the cranial 8 nerve. To recap this lesson, we need to remember all of the structures and functions of the different sections of the ear. In order to do that, I will quickly go over each section of the ear and hearing as well. For the external ear, it is made up of the auricle and the auditory canal, and the auditory canal ends at the tympanic membrane. For the middle ear, it contains the ossicles, which are 3 tiny bones that help us hear. The middle ear also contains the tympanic membrane and the eustachian tubes. For the inner ear, it contains the cochlea and the vestibule, which both have their own unique structures. For hearing, we hear sounds that cause vibrations. They move through the outer ear to the middle ear to the inner ear. In other words, they move through the auditory canal to the tympanic membrane, which vibrates the ossicles. From this, the vibrations move through the oval window and the round window, moving the fluid in the cochlea. This causes the stereocilia to move and create neural signals that are sent to the brain as sensory signals. The three sections of the ear work together instantaneously and allow us to hear. When looking at all their different functions and moving parts, it is truly quite remarkable that we hear the way we do. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching and listening, and take care.